Welcome to the Estonian General Intelligence Podcast. It is my great privilege and honor to welcome to today's podcast the Director General and the CEO of Smart Africa, Ms. Lacina Koné. Welcome.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Yes, it is truly a monumental step for the podcast, as it will be the 10th episode, and it will be the inaugural episode with a guest who's not Estonian. So it is with a great gratitude for the great friendship that Estonia has with your organization, Smart Africa, and with yourself. It is really a pleasure to have you here.
Congratulations on this podcast. It's a great honor for me to be part of this.
You're very kind. But let's get started. And there are so many different areas to cover, so many different directions that this conversation would go. I'm really, with great anticipation, looking forward to seeing how far we get and how deep we go. But
Yes.
To get started, you're a person who's a very kind of unique combination of the continental ambition and at the same time very pragmatical and practical execution of that ambition. To lay kind of the conversation going forward, what is your future for 5 years, for 10 years that you would like to see for an African citizen?
Thank you, Lembit. Hello, of course. It's very kind of you for us, Smart Africa, to be able to take part of this podcast. When I look at the future for our citizens in Africa, of course, I don't need to go back to say what's Smart Africa, which is the Pan-African organization headquarters in Kigali, with the 42 country members covering about 1.2 billion population, with only one vision: transform Africa into a single digital market. That is big visions. It's a big responsibility and it's a big missions. So in line with that, when I project myself and the organization next 5 years, is to see not only our citizens connected, but our citizens transformed.
Mm-hmm.
It's very important to put an emphasis on this. The reason why you may know, or other people may not know, that there's a confusion between digitalization and transformation. For the past 20 years, most of our country members, we've been, of course, advocating digital economy, digitalization, digitizations, and a lot of countries made good stride. But digitalization, fast forward 20 years, we found out sectorial sector, energy, health, transportation, education, yes, they digitalize, but they digitalize in silo.
Mm-hmm.
That is not transformation. Every single ministry, every single sector digitalize. Some of them basically they say, well, you can find the form online and you fill it out, you download it, you fill it out, and you still have to print it to queue. That is not a transformation. The transformation is the buildup of the intelligence within the system. And that can only be done when our citizens in the next 5 years are centered of the social economic development. And that can only be done when we take seriously our identification, particularly our digital ID, because it's only by unique digital ID we can aggregate all the services rendered to citizens.
Mm-hmm.
That's when the intelligence start building and the transformation start. So that's why I'm seeing our city next 5 years. Particularly now, of course, we can touch base on that. The AI, it is sitting on the DPI, the digital public
Yes.
infrastructure. And we are still striving to build that DPI, which is a digital public infrastructure, sits on identification, digital ID, payment system, uh, cloud, infrastructure, and so on and so forth. I hope kind of like answer your question when I say 5 years from now, I want to see the citizen at the center of digital transformation, a true digital transformation. And we'll touch on, of course.
But this is an answer that we as a kind of a system architects and system builders understand very well, and how do we want to set it up. But if you would take a look at from the viewpoint of the citizen, how would the day in life, or how would the future would look like for that citizen?
You see, that's a bit, we as the architect, we might understand those jargon words, but let me put it in a plain English. The lack of a digital unique identification for citizens, the citizens start becoming the messenger of the government. If a citizen goes to Minister of Education, he get asked his credential, he give it. He goes to Minister of Transportation, he asks the same information, he gives it. He goes to Minister of Health, so he becomes the messenger of the government. In the world that I'm talking about, where the citizen is the center of the socio-economic development,
Mm-hmm.
you only give that information once, and it's up to the government now to pass on the citizen information in a way that is protected and that protect the privacy and that builds also the trust. So it goes back, I think we've been discussing this for the past 5, 6 years, single source of truth.
Yes,
This
that's
then gets to the trust. So that's how the citizen life would be seen different. As long as they are the messengers today, different entity of the government, they will not make it a digital transformation.
absolutely. And this is definitely music to my ears, because in Estonia we're very proud of the once only principle, that you only give it a certain type of information once, and after that, I expect the government to actually know that information, and maybe ask me to update it every now and then. But
Exactly.
but now, how to balance this? That if we have a good digital ID systems, we have well connected, we have good interoperability systems, that the systems work together well. We have good governance, good security. Um, what is the view on the connectivity, and how will this be kind of solved, or what are the latest developments that Smart Africa is working on?
You see, connectivity, it is not a destination. Transformation is the destination. Connectivity is the mean. Where in Africa stand today, according to ITU statistics and the World Bank, we're about 46% of our people who are connected on average, where the average of the world is around 64 to 66%. That has its own challenges, but 46% of the population of 1.4 billion, you're talking roughly about 600 million, 650 million, roughly. That's not enough because the root cause of that low number, it is not the lack of coverage.
Mm-hmm.
It is a phenomenon, we call it usage gap. The usage gap, because today, if you look roughly today in terms of populations, close to 80% of the African populations are covered with the infrastructure necessary for digital communication, digital transformation. But we have a usage gap, which means we have infrastructure in area where people are not using it because of four things: affordability, the cost of internet; two, smart devices; three, local context. Give me a reason to use the internet. Four, cyber hygiene, which goes back to trust. How do I trust the system? So that's where we are in terms of connectivity. But again, I will say it here: connectivity is not a destination. It is the mean to the destination, which is transforming the entire economy of our countries.
Yes, it's definitely one of the things that to provide it and to build it, it has its certain complexities. But at one point, it needs to be elementary. There's having electricity, or trying to bring in the running water. That when you don't have it, you really miss it, and you see the lack of it. But when it's available, it feels as elementary as
Because,
having air to breathe.
yeah, yeah, because the reason I say it's a mean, because the connectivity brings opportunity. Once citizens are connected, suddenly the farmer can access live information about the crops. Suddenly, a student not living in the urban area can access different kind of education system. Suddenly, the healthcare system, uh, hospital which are mainly located in the urban area, we can do the primary diagnosis. You
Hmm.
see, Limbits, I want to share something with you. The political will, it is not the problem.
Hmm.
Everyone has a political will, but understanding the challenges that Africa is facing, the lack of understanding of the challenges, and the biggest overall challenge that I'm going to tell you today, people forget that at the end of the third industrial revolution in 1980s, between second industrial revolution and the third industrial revolution, Africa gained only 200 million population. That
Hmm.
is back from 60s to 80s. In 1980, Africa's population was 480 million. From 1980, fast forward 45 years to 2026, Africa is 1.4. It means we gain close to 1 billion population. Now, that challenge, what we need to ask ourselves, has the number of schools increased that rate? No. Has the number of hospitals increased that
Hmm.
rate? No. Has the number of banks increased that rate? No. So for us, the challenge is we have no choice but to go digital
Yes.
because only with the digital transformation we can have banking services without bank, and we've seen the success story today in Africa. Is only through a digital we can have healthcare services without fully blown hospital, and we see that how the AI can help in the triage diagnosis in the rural area. It's only also without with the we need a financial banking service with that bank. We need educations without schools. We can have e-education in area where we don't have big universities. So it's not really a choice. So once you understand that challenges, then the political will can act on that. But if we don't
Hmm.
understand that challenges, that's where the problem occur or the challenge occur.
Yes. But so I would say those are challenging questions, and coming from a Estonian perspective, we definitely see how it was challenging to get one nation through those steps and then overcoming those obstacles. But I think Smart Africa has a unique challenge as well, that it's working with different member states and trying to connect entire Africa and the continent.
Absolutely.
And how do you balance the country's need for sovereign systems and sovereignty and independence with this connectedness and connectivity between, and sharing identities and sharing trust? And where do you see in the future, how is that system going? Obviously, we're going through some of the well, we have been going through some of the same discussions in Europe as well, connecting the different member states and all of this. But what is your view in Africa on how to balance the individual sovereignty with the true connectivity and connectedness?
Thank you for that question. This is, I think, a big debate in this early, this 2026. Sovereignty does not mean, was never meant to mean building walls. Sovereignty is the ability to make choices. And I will explain myself. 20 years ago, we've seen the world swamped with the instant messaging services. I'm not going to cite any name. The instant messaging services, they were free of charge. It, in fact, it undercut the cost of the traditional communication that we all know. Before, if I used to call you in Estonia, it cost me, I don't know, few cents in euro per minute. With instant messaging using data, it became free. We found it very interesting. But what started as a tool became a platform. Those instant messages were very convenient. What started as convenience became dependency,
Mhm.
and dependency now becomes geopolitical. Yes, that is the reality of what we're living today. So when we want to debate about sovereignty in this context, that's what sovereignty is about, making choices. How are we going to be sovereign while your sovereign data is actually stored and processed elsewhere? It doesn't work. It does not mean grow in isolation.
Mhm.
I'm specifically talking about government data because the commercial private data, like the commercial services, business services to consumer, the big tech company, they will always target the mass population, which is very normal.
Mhm.
Profiling mass population, that is the free liberal world. But when it comes in terms of government data, we must have a sovereign infrastructure. We must have a sovereign cloud. We must have a sovereign AI system. AI is actually much more dangerous
Mhm.
today in terms of biases than we've seen in the past 20 years because instant messages, it was only my message to you, your message to me. It did not carry any intelligence, but it's only by collecting the
Mhm.
digital footprints we can make a sense of it. But in the AI, I'm not talking AI as an information pipeline. I'm talking AI as agentic AI. When
Yes.
you're asking agentic AI, do XYZ for me, the action the AI was doing is depending on certain credential. It could be your own personal credential. It has to do something with the government. These are the information being processed outside the continent. That's why it's a wake-up call.
Mhm.
Not only we need to have data centers in Africa, but we need to have a sovereign cloud in our countries.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
if we don't do that, there will be no difference between what is happening today with Africa being taken for granted for raw material provision, process it elsewhere, resell it back to the world. It's no different than taking the data today and process it outside and go back to Africa. That's why sovereignty is about making choices and not only choices, the right choices. And technology is not the limit.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. And this is, it actually brings to the interesting point. I was thinking about going to the AI a bit later because it does add a completely different layer of the
Absolutely.
sovereignty of the intelligence and the biases associated with this. But maybe it's actually good for us to just dive into this as well right now because, in one hand, the sovereignty and keeping data in the continent and in the country, of course, absolutely crucial. In Estonia, we have experienced that not only having the data in Estonia, but also having the data embassies, where we actually store it outside. Luxembourg was the first one, and have a copy of the entire e-government running actually, not at backed up, but actually running that we can actually switch over. So that has been a big
Yes.
step. And but this part is actually quite it's expensive, but it's easier to resolve. That you just need to build the data centers, you need to install the hardware, the software, the data, sync up the data, and have that up and running. But now the next layer, when it comes into the AI, is actually where is the intelligence created? Where is the intelligence that will actually use the agentic systems, and that will actually be utilizing that data and running it through the models and getting managing the processes and getting different responses. And this is an interesting question. And to be very practical about it, I would love to see your view because, last year, I think it was about 1.5 trillion was invested into AI developments. Most of it went into the data centers and went into the chips and the training models. And most of it
Absolutely.
obviously went to US and to China. So how do you see that Africa can establish a very strong foothold in this one competitive race in having the best intelligence and best AI and availability of the tokens and all of this, and then kind of put itself in the framework?
Yeah. That's a very good question. You see, AI for us, it means useful AI. Africa should not be looking for the most powerful AI. Africa should be looking for the most useful AI, which will addresses optimization of our result or outcome in agriculture, in healthcare, in finance, in education. But let me be very clear. The AI sits on certain fundamentals, namely computing power. Then we, of course, at Smart Africa, we ask ourselves, what's our asset? What do we have? What were we able to achieve for the past 20 years? When we look at the computing power, none of our countries can do it alone. It requires not only chipset, it requires also energy.
Yes.
Two, we look at the data set, which are the algorithms. Do we have the asset to do it? Yes, we have our data, but it needs data governance. It needs harmonized policy because from the rationale that no country can do it alone, it means you're going to need harmonization for the data governance for the data sets to be able to be harmonized and interoperable.
Yes.
Three, skills. Is it skills in assets in Africa? We have close to 60% of the population less than 25 years old, but they need training. Data governance. Are we going to put out the data governance in isolation? No. We have the data strategy, digital transformation strategy of African Union that we, of course, we are precursor for that. How do we amplify that? How may we make that better? How do we work together in a way that we can have exactly what is needed as a data embassies,
Mm-hmm.
which means Kenya will allow Cameroon to access the data centers in Kenya without any obstacle, or Senegal and Benin. Can we have a cluster of AI data center in Benin that can be shared by Togo, by Ghana, by Senegal, and so on and so forth? That would require policy and reform such as a
Mm-hmm.
data embassy. So that's the governance. Then we look at the market. If you look at the potential of our young people, where we came from very far away. But we need to remember one thing: potential is never an index for any development. Potential is a potential. It's only when you convert the potential to a real opportunity. That is the hard part we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And we are looking into funding. So what I just mentioned to you, that all of these led Smart Africa to create Africa Africa AI Council. We had a declaration, the biggest declaration ever, in April 2025, with the 49 countries together signing a declaration for AI Council. And we've established a council during our board meeting in Conakry last November. And we had our first meeting of the AI council members on the 15th, of January, on the 20th of January, sorry. So what we're doing is to put a mechanism together, how we can work together to leverage
Mm-hmm.
assets and advantage of one country to the other country in a way that we can tackle these challenges all together. I'm not saying it's gonna be easy, but at the same time, I'm saying it is not impossible. But you will be very surprised what will be coming out of Africa in terms of use cases, because you see, we want to tackle it in a reverse way, which means the demand of the use cases will drive the power requirement or for energy requirement or the investment requirement on the ground. That's where we are. But it's extremely important that we identify countries that are well fit before. Maybe infrastructure. When I say infrastructure, the first pillar of the AI is not just the data center, it's also the availability of infrastructure, the availability of
Mhm.
energy, the availability of chipset. We understand the chipset, we are not alone in this challenge, but a lot of nations will be facing a lot of challenges. But you see what uh, the necessity is the mother of you know we'll see.
The mother of creativity, yes. And
Exactly.
and but that actually they had a bit of a question that and when we're looking to the future, the IT systems and with AI and AGI coming and machine intelligence coming more and more into our lives. I mean, there will be really there are two real constraints right now moving forward. One is energy, and the other one is kind of a token of intelligence. How much access can we have to the models, and how smart those models will be, and how fast they develop, and how fast they can be offered to the public and to the governments and on the services. I think on the intelligence part and the technological advancements, the Smart Africa is in a very good track. Are you getting more involved with the energy side as well?
The energy is absolutely. But one thing also I need to add before I tackle the energy sector, Lembit, all the foundational aspect that I talked about, Smart Africa is already engaged in all of those in infrastructure. You know that we have a BPMP, we have an intra-Africa connectivity. In terms of the skills, we have entrepreneurship, we have a SANIA, Smart Africa Network Incubator Accelerator skill, we have a Smart Africa Digital Academy. On the governance, we have a data governance track. All of these, we've been working on this with the countries. Coming back to energy, I'm going to say something here which is very important. I don't know if you heard it before, and these are facts. Of course, United States of America and China, they're leading this AI world. Why? Because of the energy. But America itself, the energy efficiency close to 50%. Reason why people are flipping now to the nuclear, right? America control today close to 1,500 gigawatts, and it's still building because it's not enough. They want to offload the pressure on the grid, traditional grid. China, on the other hand, controls about 2,900 something gigawatts. China do not have energy deficiency. They have a technology deficiency in terms of chipset.
Mm-hmm.
Europe is focused more on the regulatory. You see, one is energy deficiency, one is technology deficiency, one is a regulatory. It's focusing on the regulation. What I'm saying here is not a utopian things
Mm-hmm.
when we talk about energy. Africa today produce close to 3,000 hours of sunshine per year of renewable energy. And that is a natural resources that every single country on the continent has. Those 3,000 hours of sunshine, Limbit, it's equivalent to somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500 gigawatt
Mm-hmm.
hour in terms of energy. If an average, if average AI data center takes about between 150 to 350 megawatt, literally speaking, you can have close to 5,000 gigawatt and 5,000 AI data centers in Africa. But when we're addressing energy today, it's like Africa is not really in a discussion around the table for leveraging that renewable energy,
Mm-hmm.
but merely they will say no electrification of rural area. You need to give the basic services. Yes, we do understand that. But what about the natural resources that is actually accessible by every country? That is a discussion that we're not having. But that is the discussion we must have. The reason why I'm saying this, if more developed country, more equipped country have a deficiency in terms of energy, even some of them are willing to go back to nuclear.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we leverage the abundance and availability of the solar energy combinations with the battery system in Africa to
Mm-hmm.
deploy some of those data centers? Why is not happening? We are not part of this discussion. So we still have a saying. You see, today there is no digital transformation in silo. There is a twin transition.
Mm-hmm.
There is no digital economy when there is no discussions on the energy. But energy is something we can also tackle. When I say this is not just a theory, some countries in Africa today are, of course, the Morocco, Egypt, they're producing a combination of solar energy and combination with the battery. If you want to conserve that energy, then you take the
Mm-hmm.
battery, you take whatever is available in the battery, convert it into hydrogen to export it. So it means you can export energy, which is renewable in Africa. But that is a discussion which is not taking place. That is a discussion we must have in this 2026.
Yes, absolutely. It's a crucial discussion. At the same time, I do understand also that that the energy discussion, it is a temporary problem that it needs to be solved, and that it's that there was this with the new models and then the chip usage and everything like this. There's the spike in the need for the energy, but at the same time, I
But,
think that
but,
one of the benefits that the AI brings is actually very good impact to science and then material sciences and
but,
it become more easier to actually find new solutions and new ways to produce energy.
but
But
again,
yes.
but again, okay, we don't produce any energy sufficient to power AI data center. Fine. We've seen throughout 2025 that you don't need to boil ocean for a cup of tea. When we talk about AI, it is intelligence in general.
Mm-hmm.
What about intelligence in specific area? It should drive the cost down to more than 30. It means Africa, we're not interested in a general intelligence, but we're interested in AI when adopted, when applied to agriculture. That should drive the cost down of the necessary chipset or the GPU requirement. We are interested in healthcare. We're interested in education. We're interested in fintech. That's how you democratize it in the multiple sovereign AI deploy in each country based on the need and based on usefulness to the population. That is an architecture that is also possible. Not everything boils down. Okay, the hyperscaler have the power, and the big the frontier model have the power, and we should all go back for them to analyze the gigantic server, which is a energy uh,
Mm-hmm.
consuming a lot of power. No, we can fragment it based on the need. That's why the sovereign AI, I personally, in my view, most of the people think that the AI direction will be a centralized AI. It will not happen. It will be
I don't believe so
decentralized
either.
because with more than coming in, this is all related to the energy discussion, by the way. More than 2,000 languages in Africa. We talk about LLM. It is time to talk about medium language person. LLM is talk about medium and small language model.
Yes, absolutely. And I wanted to actually bring in the linkage as well that you said you characterized the U.S. and China and the European positions. As Estonian, of course, I'm saying Europe is not only doing regulation, but there is a corner of Europe that is actually quite well doing quite well in adapting the technologies developed elsewhere and being very smart and very economical and not don't want to say frugal, but really economical about this. And this is something where I wanted to kind of touch your point that in one hand, yes, the regulations, which I think are also very beneficial, and I understand that there is a very
Ab-
good
ab-
alignment
ab-
between Europe and Africa and the
Absolutely,
regulations. For example, the identity, the
absolutely.
IDAS, the standard of Europe, and kind of bringing those markets closer together as well through that
Ab-
shared trust and shared interoperability. But at the same
yes.
time, I think it's also, and I completely agree with you that you don't need to go really into the front end development of the hyperscalers and what's really the energy hungry and chip hungry and intelligence hungry and research hungry for the utilization and getting the benefit. I mean, this is one of the Estonia's experiences that there were technologies that when we started building up the e-governance systems that are widely known right now, there were the technologies that were far superior to what we initially developed and
Yes.
way more expensive. We would have could have gotten bought IBM or other interoperability solutions and all of this. Kind of fortunately, we didn't have the money at the time, and we had to build it ourselves. And that enabled us to actually utilize the new architectures. To have the
Exactly.
distributed architectures to take advantage of the internet wave that was coming then, and actually making some very very smart choices. So I see kind of a parallels there as well. And now with
Absolutely.
the AI world, it's kind of the same thing. Is one in one hand, it's a good cooperation with the world model providers. Actually, not the language model providers. World
Of
model is
course.
a bit different topic, and this is where we are doing it with the AI Leap program, for example, for education, where we're working very closely with Google. We're very, very closely with OpenAI, providing the access to the school children and universities as well. And I think this is also a very good cooperation point. And as it is a Estonian General Intelligence podcast, I would love to kind of bring in this collaboration and I think very uh, positive relationship between Smart Africa and Estonia and the cooperation.
Yes.
And I would love to hear your comments. Not so much as how do you like us, but where do you see the most interesting areas where it can go for going forward to next 5-10 years?
Uh, of course, as I said, uh, Europe is very well positioned for regulation, but not only regulation, also access to funds, but which is very important for also Africa, our continent, because the European model is a citizen centric. That's what we are adopting, citizen centric in terms of privacy and data governance. But fast forward 5 years from now, the collaborations with our partners, particularly in Europe in general and Estonia in particular, it has to be based on a mutual benefit, win-win. Africa is not just a market. Africa is a partner coming with some assets. Human capital, we have it. Data, we have it. If we talk about AI, at the end of the day, you're not going to build a gigawatt data centers when there's no data coming in. So we do have the data, even if it's not structured today, we can structure it because we have mass, which is 1.4 billion population. With Estonia in specific, it will be very interesting to learn from Estonia. As I said, I've been to Estonia more than 6, 7 times. What I'm interested in Estonia, the Estonian revolution in terms of digital. If Estonia had to do it again, what would they do differently? I'm not looking for the success story. I'm looking success story, the plan for the success current. If Estonia had to do what they did again back in 90s,
Mhm.
what would they do differently? Because the Estonians have always been precursors in Europe. That's what put them as a capital of digital of the world. I can actually say that because everything in Estonia you do it online except one thing, which is a divorce. So no other country, no, not divorce, marriage. You cannot marriage online. I heard that. It's only
Mhm.
one, so 99.99%. So when we talk about that, now with the rise of the AI, what is Estonia thinking in terms of deployment of based on all this success? What would Estonia do differently, and how we African can learn from it? Already, we are learning a lot from your successful X Road. We have many countries in Africa who adopted that.
Mhm.
Even Smart Africa itself, we're coming out with our SATA, Smart Africa Trust Alliance. We come up with our stack, but it has to be compliant. It has to be compatible. It has to be interoperable with the Estonian model or the GovStack and so on and so forth. This mutual learning is important. And not only that, we are in the era today in Africa. where our partners in Europe, we need a co-creation. 15, 20 years ago, I don't want to get into politics, but in the arena of the international development corporations, projects were imposed. This is what we're interested in, X, Y, Z. We, this generation, we're interested. Why don't we do it together in a way it creates
Mhm.
value on the continent? Technology transfer and the sustainability of those projects to be able to address the SDG, because the SDG is coming in 4 years. What do we do? It's not a small project here, another project in this country. No. What, how can we focus on one, two, three projects and make it sustainable and learn from Estonia in terms of will they do differently if we need to reverse the clock back in 90s? Does it make
Absolutely,
sense?
and there are many interesting discussions taking already place in the place in Estonia. And now, myself being back in Estonia as well, I'm trying to push different things. And actually, after enjoying a great cooperation living in Rwanda, working with Smart Africa, the
Yes.
year and a half that I've been back in Estonia, I've really taken a deep dive into the AI and artificial general intelligence and machine intelligence future and what this will bring.
Yes.
And I think this is something where there are many different discussions that are not even happening in societies yet. For example, one of the things that I'm pushing in Estonia is that when we have agentic systems and when we have robots coming into the factories and we have more of a self-driving transportation handling logistics, and with that meaning that what happens if half the people do not need to work anymore and or cannot find work anymore. And if we have a
Yes.
tax system that's based on income tax and then social tax, and
Yes.
half of it drops off, how do we operate as a country? How do we, pay the bills? How do we build the roads? How do we reskill and retrain the people for more exciting things? And those are really fundamental questions. And I think these are the questions that are not individual, whether U.S. needs to solve it, or Estonia needs to solve it, or an African country needs to solve it, or China. I think these are universal human questions. And I would
Absolutely.
actually like to use that as a segue to bring in one more topic, and this is the topic of the artificial general intelligence and the super intelligence that's coming. And I'm a big proponent, and then in many discussions, I keep saying that considering that they say that LLMs are already at the IQ of 150, 160 level. That McKinsey said last year that 57% of the office work can already be automated with the humanoid robots coming and the industrial robots already being very actively in place. Um, how worried are you about the future of this super intelligence age where there is an intelligence bypassing us? Or in reverse, what excites you the most?
We have to agree that not everything is AIable. We have to agree on that. We talk about
I would
AI.
need some further discussion on that.
Well, plumber, the plumbing job, is it AIable? It can use it to augment his knowledge in the plumbing, but to real do the physical work or day-to-day plumbing coming to your house every month or maintenance and all that. But you might say, let's go back to the fundamental design of the system that is a plumbing system that may actually surpass the need for any maintenance. Anyway, that is debatable.
Can I challenge you immediately? No.
Go
If you
ahead.
allow me.
Go,
Um,
of course.
I had a bit of a aha moment. Before that I was quite confident that the humanoid robots will be better equipped than humans. But
Yes.
in the beginning of this year at the CES, when Boston Dynamics showed their latest Atlas robot,
Yes.
and also 60 Minutes did a US TV show, did a longer story on them. I really recommend everybody to watch it on YouTube. And what really kind of blew my mind, and I'm deep into the tech and deep into the AI, and then I think it's hard to but I was really surprised when I saw the robot standing up from the floor. It had
Yes.
all its joints were turning 360. Head was turning 360. It was able to go into a really narrow corridor and pretty much just turn around and move back. And the capabilities that humans don't have. and it went so far beyond. And from that standpoint, for me to kind of
Hmm.
see that the plumbers, what is so specific over there that kind of a robot or that kind of dexterity cannot do, and all the way to the theory that the humanoid robots are looking as so close to humans right now is
Okay,
just to
I
get people used to them.
no, I may agree with you because remember, 12 years ago we wouldn't have this discussion because no, not 12 years, 12 months ago or 18 months ago, there are many areas we thought the AI would not touch. All of these areas are being touched today. So with the evolution, it could. I may agree with you. But let's go back to the fundamental of the AGI. We talk about AI, we talk about agentic AI, we talk about AGI, we talk about ASI, which is artificial super intelligence.
Hmm.
What does that actually mean for Africa? What you're talking about, it is the concern about the entire world moving into what we call the universal minimum wages. Are we gonna get there? Universal minimum, it means with the AGI, robots are doing everything. What are we gonna do? The whole population will be on the minimum wages, and the robot and the AI will take over. What does that actually mean for Africa, where we are required to create about the World Bank statistics 2 years ago, 22 million jobs a year from 2024, 2023 to 2030. When we want to create a job, when we have AGI, do we need to create a job? I mean, we create a machine to do the job. And we already see that. I'm not going to say
Yes.
specific name of the countries. We've seen that. We've seen that already in North Africa. The call center job, which were outsourced from Europe to North Africa, the
Hmm.
call center job is being taken over by AI. And we've seen that also the manufacturing plants of car outsourced to North African countries. They're using now the robot
Yes.
in those plants. We've seen some plants at the BYD, the Chinese manufacturer, where the robot create about 60 to 65 cars per day,
Hmm.
no human interventions.
And dark
So what?
factories where you don't need to turn on the lights because the humans are not working in there.
Thank you.
No, this is I completely agree
So
with you, and this is something that keeps me up. Those questions.
yes,
Uh,
oh yes.
that
So
and I think even the solutions you said that universal kind of minimum income.
yeah,
I like the discussions about actually the universal basic services, that maybe everybody's just kind of guaranteed a basic service, that they have the house, the apartment or a house, they have the electricity, they have running water, and then they can decide what they want to do. Or as obviously it's very controversial to say his name these days. Elon Musk is discussing universal high income, that with the robots doing all the work and then the agentic intelligence doing all the office work, we should actually
yes,
have the age of abundance where everything is very very cheap and free, and everybody can actually enjoy the high level of income and benefits of that. So I think these are really interesting discussions. And even with Africa's case, for me, in the last couple of years, I've kind of changed my mind, and I've started getting more worried because, as you
yes,
said, the population tree or the age tree being very much towards the young people. In the past, I kind of had the idea that I had a business idea that let's take the Estonian best digital society knowledge and complement that with the great African youth that's coming out of the universities with perfect, education and technical
yes,
skills. But now
yes.
these days, I'm kind of looking at it is that, even more and more in those types of situations, do you really need a human in the process? Or is that something that the artificial? Actually, I don't like using the term artificial anymore. I'm using machine intelligence, and
With
this
clean, clean. You say what? Clean intelligence?
machine.
Machine intelligence. Okay.
Yes, this is actually it's not my term. It's from Jan LeCun, who's the chief AI or AI chief of Meta. He just left, but
Yes.
he said that at the end of the day, it doesn't make a difference whether it's from human or from machine. It's intelligence is
It's
intelligence,
intelligence.
which kind of make sense to me. And so these are kind of very exciting questions. The other one that's kind of but what gets me really excited, I cannot wait for to get the plug into my brain to have real-time connectivity and the bandwidth to communicate with the AI. But yes, this is kind of from my side. I've been so focused now on helping the organizations and the countries and states to really become friendly with the machine intelligence, and rather than looking at AI as a technology, really
Yes.
to see how you can cooperate with that level of intelligence that's coming in our front doors and then windows and everywhere.
But let's put that in perspective. In Europe, we're talking about AGI, robot taking over from people who are working already. In
Yes.
Africa, people are not working. We want to create jobs. Just like when the shared economy came, Bolt and
Hmm.
Uber, it brought strife in many countries in Europe. It actually created a lot of jobs in Africa. I personally think people were working in manufacturing plants. They're now replaced by the robot. They may move to a universal minimum wages. Then in Africa, we're trying to create a job, but people don't have a job yet in order to be replaced. So it gives us the opportunity to leapfrog or to cheat a leap
Yes.
to see instead of creating a conventional job, why don't we focus on those 65% of the population of the continent less than 25 years to learn something different, which will allow Africa to make the leap?
Yes. And be the not only a test bed, but actually in the front of the new societal models that
Exactly.
can be created.
Absolutely. That's how I see it as a challenge. At the same time, I see it more as an
Yes.
opportunity than the challenge because the job is not there yet. We're living
The-
in a very interesting moment.
yes, absolutely. And as I've said in multiple episodes before, that it's like I always or I intentionally take the positive side and the optimistic side. And of
Yes.
course, I keep abreast of the risks and negatives and dystopian side of the future that may very well happen as well. But I am optimistic and kind of looking at the utopian possibilities, and I think it's a very exciting time to be alive. And even when I just listened to the podcast with Ray Kurzweil, the famous inventor and futurist, and one of the persons who's been most accurate in predicting what is
Yes.
coming with AI and advancement of the technology and things like this. And his statement that in the next 10 years, we will see a technological advancements that will be more than we saw in the last 100. And when you think about what happened between 1925 and 2025, and if you
Yes.
think about all of that development and you put that into the next 10 years, definitely very exciting times ahead. And
I think you are the one who recommended me to read the book, which is by I think what's it? The world is changing faster than you actually think.
yes, the future is faster than you think, I
The
believe.
future faster than you think. Yes,
Yes, yes.
absolutely.
And that's Peter Diamandis, and the example. He actually has a new book coming out this spring. I think
Yes.
we are as gods or something like this. I'm really looking forward to this one coming out and then discussing. But now I realize that I have utilized your time so much already. I'm more than happy to keep this conversation going.
Absolutely.
I'm
No,
so
we can
excited about those things.
we can in about 3 months we can have a subsequent call in the podcast to see how things are moving because as we are gearing up to go to I'm in Europe now for the pre-events of France, India, Africa AI Summit, which is going to happen in February in India. Then after that we have Mobile World Congress. There's a lot of things happening. I think we can touch base in about 3 months to see where are we because for us at Smart Africa this year is about delivery.
Absolutely.
All the fund is about delivery, bring use cases, bring opportunities to our country members. Pragmatism. How do we actually deploy AI? That's what we gear up for this year. Because the
Absolutely.
foundation infrastructure, we already touched base on it. We've already touched that for the past 5, 6 years.
Absolutely, looking forward to it. And as you know, how close delivery is to my heart. I'm sure we'll have good discussions. But
Yes,
I don't think maybe it doesn't need to be in such a public forum right now.
absolutely,
But I
absolutely.
really, really appreciate your time,
Thank you.
and it's been a great conversation. It's great to see you again.
Thank you.
And as I said, I really enjoyed the time that I was working much closer with Smart Africa, and I'm sure those times will come again.
Real pleasure.
And also so much appreciation. Thank you so much.
Th- Thank you very much, Timothy, for inviting me. And, I hope to see you next time. It's an honor. Thank you. All right.